So nothing dramatic here. I think we've done our introduction. I'm not going to do that case study with you. We're not going to do that today. Right, so we look at the strategic importance of analyzing the macro environment. So when we look at those external forces, and regrettably today, those external forces that I showed, unfortunately, all suggested serious threats. And it wasn't on purpose. It just, I looked at the Daily Maverick very early this morning. I subscribed to the Daily Maverick, and it's doom and gloom in terms of where we are in South Africa. And I shouldn't sound like this. I should sound a little bit more positive, but my mind, my frame of mind isn't great at the moment. So when we look at the external environment, it's where we find our opportunities and threats. Now, obviously, some people, we talk about those individuals that are very good at identifying black swans. A black swan is during a time of crisis where everyone sees threats. A black swan is an anomaly in terms of that. These are businesses that get started. These are opportunities that are taken during things like depressions and other negative environmental things. And these black swans survive. These black swans thrive during these kinds of crises, survive during the worst sort of recessions, etc. So we see these anomalies and we see these exceptions to the rule. But unfortunately, black swans are few and far between. What we see here is an operating environment that is incredibly threatening to South African organizations. And if we look at some of the major trends that we would draw from what we've just seen, COVID is a major trend. We know that global warming will and will for a long time be a major trend. We know that our political climate, the corruption and the rest of the stuff will for a long time be a major trend in South Africa. Now, obviously, electricity would be in my fourth major trend. So these are the kinds of trends that organizations have to deal with. And as a consequence of that, we need to find ways of creating strategies that will counteract the threats there. Just to explain again, a black swan is the kind of organization that launches a product during the worst of economic times and it thrives. So black swans are anomalies, but those anomalies are often few and far between. Now, we've seen some black swans in terms of COVID. So people who run cleaning businesses, for them, COVID was a wonderful opportunity and lots of examples of black swan opportunities there. So when we think of those external forces, they're going to impact the organization in a variety of ways. From a competitive perspective, from a will we be around in the future perspective, and in terms of our immediate measures from a profitability perspective. Also, what we need to remember is this morning, I actually just showed the macro environment. We also have to remember that the organization has to deal with those industry environments as well. So when we look at these external factors, we look at opportunities and threats that will come from obviously the traditional macro or societal environment and then from the market environment. So when we talk about the industry environment, it is for us the market environment. Can I please ask somebody to take a picture of that page and shove it onto the group? I would appreciate if somebody could do that for me. So one of the things that we see is important from a macro environment perspective is that information is the lifeblood of an organization. One of my favorite strategic management writers, and I've said this before, unfortunately, is F.R. David. And he talks about information as being the lifeblood of an organization. And it's information that allows the organization to act proactively. It's information that allows the organization to essentially make predictions about the future, position the organization in terms of those predictions. And it acts as that bridge, because if you think of how strategic management works, is if that is the external environment, if that is the organization, our strategic plan sits over there. And the strategic plan is our game plan of how, or is the game plan of how this organization will keep in step with that external environment. And part of keeping in step, and remember we spoke about strategic fit and flexibility. Strategic fit, that moment in time thing where you perfectly match the environment. Strategic flexibility is constantly adjusting through dynamic capabilities to constantly remain in step with the environment. So what we see is that it gives us an idea of the changing picture of the environment, because we know that to survive, we have to make sure that this organization here is aligned. And the way we keep it aligned is through our strategic plan. Our strategic plan sits in there. So we gather information from there and we feed it into our strategic plan, and that allows the organization to be strategically flexible and also maintain strategic fit. Obviously, the information is important, but you still need those dynamic capabilities. So it doesn't happen automatically. You have to work at remaining relevant. So if we think of what management does, it is the idea of taking that information, and remember we looked at the relationship between data, information which is organized data, and then competitive intelligence, which would be information that gives us an opportunity for competitive advantage. So ultimately, when we do our PESTEL assessment and when we do our industry assessment, we're trying to obtain data, we're trying to take the data and turn it into information, and then we want to turn that into competitive intelligence. And that competitive intelligence is what feeds our strategy formulation.